No.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Konosuba. Today we're looking at Season 2, Episode 1. And Casey, he got a bit upset at one particular scene. I don't know if that ruined his enjoyment for the rest of the episode.
I got annoyed, and I think justifiably so, but it didn't ruin the episode, no. So, good start to the season. Like, I can't really say anything bad about it. Like, it picks up exactly where the show left off in the last season with the, what's her title? I forget, and I don't know whether we actually got her name.
We do have her name and title. I forget as well, though.
I'm going to say Glasses Lady. So she shows up and says, "Hey, you're
under arrest
for suspicion of subversion of the guy, Lord." Yeah, subversion of the state. That was the thing. Yeah, and he basically tries to run away, and there's a montage of it to the soundtrack of the montage from the first season, which I thought was a very nice joke that almost redeems that montage in particular as well. Just
before that, they started off with. They started off with the Star Wars scrolling text.
Oh yeah, they did do that too.
Yeah. Just a fun little thing. And then we see him in prison, and he's like, "Oh, started my adventure."
Yeah, and then I think it flashes back to the scene in the guild again, where he's first getting arrested, and everyone's immediately sticking up for him, saying, "Hey, that whole thing was to save the town and everything. There would have been way more casualties if, he had just left it alone. Like, the entire town would probably have been destroyed rather than just one house that had no one in it." And basically, one by one, everyone's being like, "Yeah, he's kind of a creeper and everything, but he's, generally doing good things."
I mean, he's only guilty of minor crimes like sexual harassment.
Yeah. And it ends up with the entire crowd, cheering and supporting him until Prosecutor Lady says, "Anyone that's, supporting him right now, we can also arrest," which I don't think that's how even medieval criminal systems worked.
It's
people that support him will also be under. That's not how that works, even in medieval times.
It's kind of, I guess, they're going for a guilty by association type of angle. But
even by that, it's still kind of horseshit, and that's.
Remember, this is like
we'll get to it later because it's all going to come together. So yeah, everyone immediately backs off and says, "Good luck, dude." Basically.
And then he gets into prison.
Yeah, and he's in prison, and there was one thing that was stupid and still realistically kind of stupid, even with Zero's explanation at the time that he gave me. Wiz basically volunteers herself and says, "Hey, but I was the one that did the thing," and Aqua immediately shuts her up and says, "Hey, don't do that. It's okay if Kazuma gets arrested."
It's like she says only one of us should take the fall, and I guess I guess my internal explanation is that she was like, "Oh, I can break out Kazuma. It's only one person," type of deal. But she doesn't. You're right in that she doesn't necessarily like Wiz, at least from last we saw her. But then again, Wiz did also contribute greatly to saving the town, so it's kind of a change, I guess. I don't know.
Does Aqua even give a halfpenny shit about the town at all, in general? Aside from a place that can give her things?
she gives a crap about her life, which was helped save by blowing that thing up. So.
Yeah. But still, it would have been Wiz taking basically all of the blame by saying, hey, I'm the one that did the thing, so I should be the one responsible for it. And she would have gone to prison. And if Aqua cared enough, then maybe she could have gotten her out again afterwards. But if it failed, then oh no, Wiz gets, put on trial. What a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it was an easy solution that they really just didn't want to happen, so they didn't have it happen. It's not overly egregious, but it's a little ham-handed. So, like I mentioned, we move on to Aqua's escape attempt plan, which consists of Megumin using explosion nearby the town that the prison's in, Darkness carrying Megumin off, while Aqua uses the distraction to sneak up to Kazuma's cell from the outside and give him a lockpick. That's the entirety of the plan.
Yes.
Ignoring several important facets of that plan being that, one, Kazuma, as far as we know, doesn't actually know how to pick locks.
The guards in the prison are still there.
The guards in the prison are still there. He doesn't know the stealth skill, as far as we know, that Aqua seems to think he has.
He knows sneak. He was established in the previous season. He knows the sneak skill, I believe.
I don't remember seeing that at any point during the previous season. It might have been in the books, but that's the thing.
No, he did a whole thing where he learned a whole bunch of skills. It was the last time he did. I think it was the second to last time he did it, but he meant, or I think he might have mentioned it, kind of offhand. But he does know the sneak skill.
Okay, and she doesn't actually know what kind of lock it is, and that it's a pickable lock, because there are a lot of kinds of locks, and most of them aren't actually pickable in the traditional sense. Like, for example, if the cell were a combination lock, which is frankly a little bit unusual for a prison cell, but
this is kind of a world where there's adventurers who would know a lock-picking skill. So
yeah, he can't do anything with a lockpick, so he throws it out the window again and goes back to sleep. Because, yeah, what else is he going to do?
And Aqua goes around and waits out for him.
Aqua
goes around and waits out for him, and she just kind of sits there until it's just snow's falling on her head. It's just kind of sad.
So next night comes along, and Aqua comes back. There's another explosion. They do the exact same plan, but they're wearing bags over their heads this time, so that they don't get recognized.
So nobody will know.
Yeah.
And then she's like, "I brought a saw this time." He's like, "Great, so you're gonna saw through it up there," and then she throws it in.
Yeah. And he's like, "I can't get up there," and she's like, "I have the perfect idea." And she gets one of the boxes that she's piled up to stand on, and says, "You can use this to stand on. It's about this wide, and the bars are like space between." It's like, okay, how are you getting it in? Give me a minute. She goes around and tries to give it to the guards to give to him.
It's like, that's pretty suspicious. It looks like a box could be used for a stepping stool.
Yeah. So, naturally, he throws the hacksaw out because he can't do anything with it anymore, and goes back to sleep. Yeah, fair play. This was a good scene. It was really funny and actually did something good with Aqua for once.
Like, when they play up Aqua's stupidity and they kind of make her more genuine, I feel like that's when she's at her best as a character.
I'm compelled to agree, yeah. So, next day comes along, and he's getting interrogated by Glasses. And she's like, "This thing here," which is a little bell with a design on top of it, will ding if you lie. And she starts questioning him and says, "Where are you from, and what was your occupation?" Or something like that. And he says, "I'm from Japan, and I was a student."
Ding. I'm from Japan and like lazed around in self-indulgence and did nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a neat.
Oddly
So
enough,
why did you like
this is a thing. A thing comes up here and is pretty consistent throughout the episode that I was not as much of a fan of, surprisingly, than I was in the first season. The facial expressions.
They're much weirder.
Yeah, like in the first season, they were wonderfully expressive. Like, legitimately, I have not seen many shows that go for that level of expression just in animating the faces. Like, One Piece is probably on a similar level, but, not quite as frequent. Because, it's like 700 episodes at this point, and the budget's got to go somewhere.
They're going a bit over top though in this season.
In this season, it's less expressive and more gross, is the way I'd describe it.
Yeah,
they don't.
I can
right.
see that. I feel like we saw some of the grosser ones in this episode, but they're trying to keep a variety of facial expressions, just so you don't see the same expression twice.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it, but I just feel like they're not as good at it this season. Like, they changed directors and everything, and all that changed, so it makes sense that it wouldn't go quite the same way as it did before. In this one facet of the animation style, it was better in the first season.
All right.
So anyway, as we were saying, the interrogation, and the bell dings when he says he was a student. No, I was a shut-in, and I just kind of leached off the state and stuff. And he's like, okay.
Why'd you become an adventurer?
I want to save the world. I want to fight the Devil King and everything. And it dings, and he's like, I thought it'd make me really cool and earn me a lot of money, and I'd get chicks falling all over me. Getting more and more defeated as it goes on. And eventually she asks something along the lines of, are you trying to subvert the state? Something along those lines, and it doesn't...
She asks first, what's your opinion about the Lord kind of guy, And
he's like, it was, losing the reward for killing the Dullahan, which they, oddly enough, say, the reward for that paid for everything, and they weren't in debt or anything, which is a little weird. But
no, it was the reward for that. Kind of was canceled out by the damage that we did.
Oh yeah, okay.
And that makes the moot point. I understand.
Yeah.
And the things, it's like that's actually what I told my colleagues.
I told my friends that, and what I really thought was fuck this guy and fuck everyone for. This is how they treat the guy that saved the town. Assholes, let them all die. Yeah.
And you can see her getting uncomfortable, throughout this entire thing. I'm just like, ugh. And
then it's like, are you trying to subvert the state? And he's like, no, and it doesn't ding. And she's like,
what happened specifically is he starts shouting about, hey, I'm not a terrorist. I'm trying to help everyone. I made the decision to actually save the town, and it doesn't ding.
Oh, right, he said, let's just cut to the chase and stop talking about things that aren't important to what you're actually arresting me for. And gives that whole spiel.
And, I made the decision to save the town, it doesn't ding. She's like, oh, well, I guess that kind of settles it. He's like, yeah, see, I'm the hero, and he gets all high and mighty.
Yeah, gets all full of himself and becomes an asshole like a switch flipped. It's... Yeah. True to the character, I guess. Yeah, that's what he does. He just becomes an asshole at the flick of a switch. That one moment in episode 4 still bugs me, but yeah, true to the character. And she starts playing all demure and I'm so sorry and everything, and does the high pitched voice that she doesn't have.
Yeah,
the cutesy Japanese kawaii bullshit voice that all girls are kind of expected to do. And he starts making demands like, you should get me some tea and a pork cutlet bowl. Is this how you treat your prisoners? You guys suck.
Yeah.
So she gets some tea, and he drinks it, and he's like, lukewarm. What the hell's wrong?
And then she snaps back in. Oh no, he says, "I bet you don't even have a boyfriend because of your personality." He's like, "I don't have a boyfriend." And then she snaps back into her like interrogator mode.
Yep.
She's like, "Don't get ahead of yourself."
Yep. I kind of saw that coming. That was basically, I want to see what you really like, and yep, it worked.
Yeah, it certainly did. And so then she's like, "Well, then I'll ask this as kind of a formality. You don't have any connections to the Devil King's army, or you're not having any discourse with the leaders of it."
Yep.
He's like, "No, of course not."
Yep. Ding.
It dings because Wiz
Yep.
is a character.
But he doesn't say that, and I kind of get that.
He doesn't throw Wiz under the bus.
He doesn't. But one could make an alternate character interpretation that he's the kind of person that might, if pushed into this particular corner. But that might just be an alternate character interpretation, that he is kind of a selfish dickhead. So
he is, but he's like, specifically, he likes Wiz. Wiz is one of the few good people that he's met in this world. Like, he would throw Aqua under the bus, but not Wiz. I guess.
Yeah. So we move to the trial scene.
And this is where Casey had some issues.
Yeah. Okay. So I get that it's comedy. It's fine. Comedy is fine. The problem is the vast majority of the first season was very, very straight comedy, oddly enough. Like, we've talked about it before, that they didn't play it up and probably didn't play it up enough, and that was a problem. And this particular scene is ridiculous on just about every level, but is still kind of trying to play it straight at the same time. Like, it kind of reminds me of, you know, the scene in Chrono Trigger, the trial scene in that, where it's a little silly sometimes, but also makes some legitimate good points. And like, if you do certain things in that, you know, early sequence of the game, then they'll bring it up later and make it important and spin it in a very negative light. They don't really do that in this scene here. It's more a case of, hey, this guy's a pervert and a creeper, and that's why he must be subverting the state and causing terrorism.
It's like Mega Man calls them on this has nothing to do with the actual case. I demand actually legitimate evidence for what you played.
Yeah, they go through like a good 3-4 minutes of just that for so long, and that's like the basis of all of their evidence until someone calls them out on it. It's like,
and then they're like, well, there was he was the leader of the party that destroyed the town with the flood, and also like
save the town,
caused huge explosions every night, and
save the town.
Yeah, I know they are spinning his stuff in a very negative light, and like, because Aqua and Mega Man are kind of like, they don't want to hear the stuff that they did wrong. They start covering their ears and freaking out instead of, like, I knew this scene in particular would be one you take issue with going into this season, because it's one that's it exists for a purpose, but but the way it comes about is forced.
Yeah, like probably the biggest problem with how they portrayed the scene in particular is glasses. Like, the way they portray the character, she is intended to be the very, very, very straight character. She is the no-nonsense, sensible, level-headed, logical kind of character. And then they had spent a vast majority of the trial with her focusing on unimportant bullshit that, like, it goes directly counter to what I would expect from a character like this. and not in a subverting expectations in a good way, as in just this doesn't seem to make sense.
She kind of just relies on character witnesses.
Yeah.
For a while.
When she has perfectly legitimate evidence of, hey, yeah, the bell dinged. That's pretty much all you would need. But she doesn't go with that until everyone's pushed her to actually do her job properly, which seems weird.
It's kind of just kangaroo court.
Yeah.
And like he's got the thing is it's rigged against him, so because nobles kind of have all the power in this setting. So he's going to die basically no matter what until finally like you have good old Lalatina Darkness.
We're not there yet.
Yeah.
So they do the prosecution thing, and eventually she says, yeah, we have this actual evidence that basically says, yeah, this makes it an open and shut case, that, yeah, he is in cahoots with the Devil King's army because he said he wasn't, but the bell dinged. Basically all she needed. She gets there eventually. Then I don't think it was Darkness that interrupted. I think it was... it was the Duke just saying, just fucking get on with it and let's kill him.
Yeah.
But says something that twigs in Cosmo would like. He shouts out.
He clearly has connection with Cosmo. Or like Cosmo clearly has connection with the Devil King's army. And then it's like, oh wait, connection. If I change the wording.
Yeah. I am not working for the Devil King or his army in any way, shape, or form. I am not a terrorist. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the bell doesn't ding. So clearly, he's not guilty, says the judge, and then the Duke basically says, hey, the fuck you doing? And the judge immediately caves. Because, admittedly, that makes sense for a medieval court setting.
Yeah. And then Darkness has to come forward and say, hey, my house is kind of higher ranked than yours. We're going to put this trial on hold, at the very least.
Yeah. Which, that's really weak sauce. They could have just said, hey, yeah, you've heard legitimate evidence. You're embarrassing yourself, Mr. Lord person whose name, Aldar? Something like that.
Aldar.
Yeah, so don't embarrass yourself further and just call off this farce of a trial, is what she could have said, but decided not to because she's a derp in the scene because they needed the drama to continue. Idiot ball kind of moment. Yeah. So,
the courts, I understand you don't
I get it. It's clumsy, but yeah, I get it. And, she says, I will do anything you ask if you just, suspend the trial. And he's like, and that's pretty much it for the trial scene, more or less.
Yeah. And then after that, it's just kind of like everybody starts cheering for Kazuma, or that was before, right? But
something like that. Yeah, everyone suddenly changes the tune of being, oh, he's such a shithead, to being, yeah, he's great, because they're all assholes, basically.
Because they're not being threatened by the Lord, who would.
Because it swung around to the point where Cosmo is probably going to win this, so they want to be on the winning team. Is the way that it's kind of portrayed, which, yeah. Fair enough. Everyone's kind of an asshole in that scene. Makes sense. It's a bit cynical in its portrayal, but, it's not wrong.
Then Darkness departs. She's going to go deal with Aldarp, whatever his request is. And that should clear up Kazuma's whole suspicions.
Yep.
And everything.
And they're like, okay, so I need to do two things, and the first is to clear my name so that I'm no longer under suspicion of terrorism and all that stuff, which he already has, as I pointed out while we were watching it. And also to get Darkness out of whatever situation she's in now. I think.
It was. I have to make sure my name's clear, and without a shadow of a doubt. And I need to reimburse the Lord for the damages to his house because I'm now in debt because I have to pay for that.
Yeah. So he opens the door. The second stage of my adventure begins here, and then Lord soldiers show up and ransack their house to steal all their stuff, basically.
To help pay back the debt.
To steal all their stuff. Let's not mince words.
Yeah. This is kind of corruption in the system.
Again,
and
still makes sense.
Yeah, and then we get the opening. And I like the opening for this season because it kind of tells a little story of an adventure. And there's lots of small parts to it that are very character-driven that I like.
It was alright.
It's not like the most beautiful opening, but it I don't know, it made me kind of laugh and smile, when I first saw it. And that's it for episode 1. Final thoughts?
I thought it was alright. Like I say, bit ham-handed at parts. A little bit clumsy with how the characters acted. Like, some of it didn't make sense. Some of it, like, Darkness says, "Oh, he's such a sly one, is this Lord?" When, no, that's not sly. That is blatant and flagrant abuse of his power that he has over the legal system and everything. That's not sly. That's clumsy, slamming your fist on people.
I kind of played it off to Darkness not being the sharpest tool in the shed, but because that's just me. But yeah. Like so, there were some very funny parts in this episode, like with the whole prison scene and the opening was
like first. I'm gonna say first half of this episode was great. Like the prison scene, like you say, the intro in the guild hall where everyone's kind of on his side and then they're not on his side anymore. That the abuse of justice and everything was a little bit weird, but not ridiculously so. Just kind of made me raise an eyebrow. Okay, sure. But the interrogation scene was a great character moment for both him and Glasses. For showing her to be a kind of sly character. The problem was they basically kind of completely undo that in the very next scene. Yeah. And that's where I have a problem with it.
But at the very least, we got a lot more on Cosmo's character than we have previously.
Yeah.
In terms of just seeing things from his perspective. And that's kind of a trend that's going to continue as we're going to see more of the characters and how they view things. This right now is kind of the start of Darkness's first arc. Because she's going to go away for a little while, but we're going to get back to her.
Yeah.
But this kind of...
I mean, I get why this is like the first of 2 arcs of this season, and it's going to be like, I assume, 5 episodes.
It's going to be, I guess, about so, actually. Yeah. And then we're going to be going to...
something else.
The next arc, which is...
something else.
Something else. I'm not going to say anything about it, though.
Yeah, which is what I was prodding you not to do. Yeah. So, yeah. All right. So, yeah, that was all right. I still have some issues with this show, but it is demonstrably better. Like, this is demonstrably a better first episode than the other first episode. So, start as you mean to go on. So, I still have high hopes for the second season. So far, Zero has not been incorrect that the second season is better than the first, despite some missteps, but every show has its ups and downs.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that's about it. Konosuba, Season 2, Episode 1, Zero Interest. See you guys next time.
Okay, you're being very sudden with the outros, actually. So, I know I'm very, very critical in this show. That's... if I'm going to be watching something I just want to make sure that I'm clear on my position here for how I'm watching this show. The entire point of it is to kind of be a little critical of what we're watching and, take a closer look at some shows. I, when asked to be critical of something, will be critical of something and probably be a little harsher than is probably required. And that's pretty much what I'm doing here. I enjoyed this episode a fair bit. So I just want to make that fully clear.
like we criticized some episodes of RWBY too, but that doesn't mean we didn't enjoy them.
I was the one that liked RWBY a lot and really, really wanted Zero to watch it to the point of creating a show where he had to watch it. And I was probably more critical than Zero was in that show. So it's just how I do when it comes to analyzing things. But yeah,
So I think that's it.
that's pretty much it.
I guess see you guys next episode with season 2.
I don't know what he's doing. I don't know what he's doing.
I'm having fun. I'm having fun. I'm injecting life into this show.
Mm.
Bye.
I'm injecting handsome into this show. I look great today. Shut up. Bye, everybody.
Bye.